two really good teams going at it. Those are three good ball games, and I know if you just look at the score of this game, you think, well, that game was three separate games in one game, the back end, the finishing game. Can't say enough about the guys out of the gate. The at-bats early, I thought Wes attacked the zone better. Last start, he was not in the zone enough, and he was on the attack, and that's a good team, and they kind of made some adjustments as that went and started to barrel some things and stayed on the ball well. Peyton extended a little bit, and we had him where he could throw 70 pitches, so we knew somebody was going to need to eat some innings, and that's why we stuck with some guys, because we knew this had the feel of this thing may go a little bit, and we needed somebody to try to challenge and attack and gobble up some outs. I thought Joe was as good as I've seen him, and the velo was there. The sliders were where they needed to be, and then out of the zone when he needed them out of the zone. Offensively, for me to evaluate the hitting, I'm just very proud of it. Front end, back into the game, and then the middle part of the game. It's interesting. You're an 11-9 game the way that started, and I never sensed any panic. Both teams are getting deeper in the bullpen. I felt like we were still in pretty good shape. We had guys. We had Mason Martinez, and we had Ben Barrett, and we had Marlowe, and we had Rowan and Laufbeck. I knew we were okay. We just needed to limit the self-inflicted part and try to stop some of those big innings. And I don't feel like there's some hit by pitches and walks, but I think our defense, again, blends in. But I always try to write down some of the things that come up. Mendez catches the bunt. He was a center fielder, so he goes and gets that bunt. That might have been the first inning in the collision. Miles made a really nice play down the line. Cal made a nice play. Carnes to come out on a little drag bunt. Like, we've seen that not go well, and he handled it. The steel dirt ball read combo where they overslid for Carnes to dot it down there and Lodis to stay with it the way he did. And, it takes a lot for the umpire that's making the call to go review it and overturn his call. And that was a big moment. Offensively, you can go round and round, top to bottom of the lineup and think of things. I felt like Miles' home run in whatever inning that was spaced the game a little bit again, because it might have been 12-9 at that point when he hit it, and he had a nice day. And Farrow, beautiful day, home runs from both sides of the plate, and once that thing starts clicking for him, you can feel it, and he's got that presence. And it was an interesting way to end a series of this magnitude, because you didn't feel like that sort of ending was in play, and the two walk-offs couldn't have been any different in how they formed. Clemson is very, very talented. The variety of arms, the pitchability, the management of their pitch calling, management of bullpen, athleticism, plate discipline, very disciplined at the plate, dangerous, and they're down. They were down to, I think, their second baseman, not the one that got hurt, but one of their guys was out. And there's nobody that's really full strength right now. That's a good team, and to be able to win, and then win in the manner that we won today, I can't tell you how proud I am of the guys.
Does it even make it more satisfying because of how this series went last year? And y'all had a big lead on them, and they came back, and then you put.
Of course, like, we were in control of those games and had done a nice job. But these are 9-inning games, and they outplayed us on the back end of those games last year. They did completely. So we walked out of there with our tail between our legs. Very tough. So yes, it does make you feel good. And the ones that were on the team, they remember that. If you don't remember that feeling, then you should go play something else, because that rage you felt as those games got away and you had to walk off that field in the manner we did, if that can't lock you in a little bit for this, I don't know really what will. So I thought, there were a couple minutes in the game last night that turned it. We were in position in that game, and there were a couple things, and we had a heart-to-heart in that locker room after the game about a couple little moments in that game that gave them the fuel, and they absolutely take advantage given the opportunity. That's a good team. So last year, yes, this does feel good, and because of that, this feels a little better.
For the guys to come out of the gates the way they did after the way that second game ended, and then you just had 45 minutes until the next game, just how impressive was that for them to come out the way they did?
Yeah, if you're going to win championship-type games, you better come out of that locker room ready to play. And the conditions with which you come out are not always pleasant. And it was dang unpleasant to walk out there. So the maturity of some of the guys and the leadership in the locker room, I left them alone. Like, I wasn't going in there. There was nothing to – we had some long talks. They didn't need another one from me in between the games. If they can't figure out how to way to prepare in that time and get themselves locked down and locked in and ready to go, then I failed along the way to create the culture that locker room should have.
What does it say about Alex what he said today, that he was able to set the tone in that third game?
Yeah, just the adjustments in game and the thinking through. I've been doing this a long time, and you start to see hitters think through moments and at-bats and how they're being pitched and what it looks like and what it feels like, and are they expanding away from a lane that they might be hunting. Just a mature player. And it was good to see him back on those things, the ball off the scoreboard and then the ball the other way. You don't see that combination, nor Thoreau. And the things he's done at shortstop to stabilize and Thoreau at second, that was quite a duo that played the middle infield, offensively and defensively.
When things are really going south in the fourth inning, Peyton's the guy who can finally kind of stabilize them, stop him going all the way out of control. What's to say about him? He hasn't played a ton at this level to come in and do that.
Well, he normally is in the strike zone. And at that point, we wanted strikes and play defense and let's see what happens. So he needs to be, every one of those guys on that pitching staff needs to be ready to come in and do what they were brought here to do. And he was brought here to do that. Now, to find himself in the middle of that mess, I don't know if that's really what he envisioned this first year, but that tells you that we do trust him. And when he's in the zone, like, the stuff plays enough that he can get it off the barrel. And I know by the end it wasn't off the barrel, so it was next man up. But he's impressive, and he's savvy and smart, and there's a lot of good baseball ahead for him.
It feels like with Joe pretty quickly, you could tell maybe if he has it or doesn't have it. Friday
You
was
think?
maybe not his best. Tonight, I would say, or today was. I guess, what is it about him when he's on that it just seems like he's just so hard to square up?
Well, it's 93 to 96, and he's got two different breaking balls, and he's got a nice little changeup that he can use. So, I mean, that package is exceptional, just that. And to be honest, I think he had that same, if you just looked at the stuff, not maybe execution, he hadn't been out there in a while. And so it just wasn't as sharp. I don't think it lacked. So that sharpness, and being an older guy, like, he needs to still grow and learn what adjustment in game needs to be made if it doesn't feel like it's clicking like it might have been clicking today. Because we're going to need those guys to pitch their way out. The starting pitchers, we talk about self-contained relief. Mendez did it in the first inning. You have to be your own reliever. Well, sometimes as a reliever, we don't have the luxury of maybe matching up for one hitter and then the next guy for the next. And you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together a little bit to stay in those outings and lengthen it out a little bit like he did today. And sometimes he gets a little mechanical thinking, and you have to feel maybe the release point adjustment to get that fastball back down, and that'll help get the slider where it needs to be and firm and down.
You guys ended up hitting 6 homers in the game, but it felt like it was Gage's bunt in the second that kind of got things rolling with big in there. Just how big was it to execute that bunt in that situation?
It was great. We had the lefty on the mound that falls, and he's a really good athlete on the mound, so it needed to be good. And he took it right where it needed to go, and that's absolute no man's land. And I hope their second baseman's okay. That was a tough one, but that's a part of it. And the base running and the base stealing is a part of it. And I questioned myself after Miles. I thought he had a chance, like, to steal the base. He's a very athletic guy. So when you see the times and you see it, like, I thought he had a shot, and I was kicking myself a little bit when he got thrown out, and it looked like we were swinging the bats pretty good. But the bunt was big, And there were some other big base running moments in the game that just create a little added pressure to what they have to deal with.
How heads up is that by Carnes? There's a collision, but the ball's 20 feet from him. But for him to take third while they're both not moving, I mean, obviously you want to be okay, but that's a really good big 90 feet.
Yeah, no, he's wise beyond his years of baseball. Like, that's not easy to catch today. And if you're saying, oh, well, there's a freshman. That kid was catching high school games last year, and he just caught this thing today and managed that play, the blocking, the picking up the button. Like, catching, first base, and umpiring, when it blends in, you know it's done well. And he completely blended in, and so did their catcher. Like, this was tough. This is the highest level amateur baseball can be played, and you saw it. And he's into the game. Like, he's a quiet kid, but he watches and observes and plays the game well.
I have to imagine for a guy like Miles, it's probably more than longer season than he's ever had by this point in the season, how much he's played. You see the freshman wall, I think he's maybe been dealing with that a bit, but to have the game he did and the homer he did, it felt like maybe the kill shot, if you will, of the game.
Yeah, he had a big, I thought when you sense that they were almost okay getting to Miles and he hit the double to left center field, I told him, I said, hey, big guy, like, you're in position now. You have to deliver, and you're going to have to hang in there, and you're going to have to adjust and hit the secondary pitches. Like, it's coming, and you sensed it a little bit. It might have been Friday. I can't remember, but he hung in there and shot that ball to left center field, and I thought that got him going. And then the 2 out base hit, like, big shift, which most people would do, and he stays on that ball and shoots it right through the third base lane. Had some good at bats, and this is up and down. Like, it is up and down for any freshman, and I wouldn't say necessarily I feel like he hit a wall. It's just part of the ups and downs of what you have to go through as you play a sport that's requiring 70-something games. It's not easy to feel like you're on it every day.
We talked about Cal, obviously at the plate on Friday, but the plays he made defensively this weekend, just how he's coming along in the hot corner right there. What does that do for you guys?
Those plays are huge. I mean, I had 2 or 3 written down that he had his hand in, and the judgment, third is tricky because the judgment of the hop and top spin and when to back up on it and when to go get it and how to make the throw. Do you make the throw on the run? Do you set your feet? Those are tricky things to learn, and he's growing into that. And he did have some big at-bats. I still think at times there's some at-bats that get away from him a little bit, but all in all, progression on schedule, thinking, some really heady, athletic-looking plays today.